that bad in my nails, but I'm always wearing acrylics, so it's not gonna do anything. Like, I'm just gonna always have acrylics on them.
So, kind of combining information on slides allows us to finish Monday. So you will have Tuesday, and let's make. I will try to make it so that no matter what, you can take the objective test Tuesday or the essay test. I cannot guarantee that, but I'll try.
Wait, I have a question. Is that like because like you don't have them made, or because the college won't allow it?
I don't quite have the objective test finished yet.
Oh, okay.
Plus, I'm not sure if the computers are available. Okay, at the very least, you will have Tuesday to work on your Blue Book essay. That's kind of a good approach anyway. You attack the essay, whatever. Okay. Any questions on the schedule? Of course, today is the last KIA is due by the end of the hour. You should have a decent chunk of time. Okay, so does anyone remember the last time we encountered something called a corollary?
No.
Very good. The Lodge corollary. Jack, what was it?
It said that the Monroe Doctrine also included all of our.
Very good. So extend the restrictions of overseas intrusion into the Americas, extended to the Asian powers, and really that was meant to be directed to Japan, an emerging global power. Roosevelt becomes president, and he adds something called the Roosevelt Corollary to the Monroe Doctrine. And it's exemplified by these three pictures that were political cartoons at the time. There you see Teddy with a very large bat marching his way like a soldier around the Caribbean with his cute little navy there. Here you see Roosevelt, the police officer, with again his large bat. And look where he's standing. Can you see where he's standing? He's between two groups of people. To your left, his right, you've got your sort of darker skinned people, and they've got Mexican hats on. And then to his left, your right, you've got Europeans, and he's between them. And then finally, this one to the right, you've got Roosevelt with not a big cannon this time, but, well, yeah, a big cannon this time. It's not a big bat, it's a big cannon with a little flag called Monroe Doctrine pointing directly at the head of what looks like a European king. And the European king is reaching his hand out to this poor Central or South American, and it says here, Republic of Santo Domingo. Before I explain, what was the Monroe Doctrine?
Europe and South America.
Europe, stay out. Can you figure out the Roosevelt corollary? I think it's best exemplified with this one. And I'll phrase it this way. Can you finish the sentence? Not only does Europe need to stay out, but we can go in. Very good. All right. You've interpreted a political cartoon. So let's say, for example, the poor Republic of Santo Domingo, which today is not Santo Domingo. I think that's Haiti. I think. Or it might be the Dominican Republic. I'm not sure. I'm not exactly sure. Okay. What if Santo Domingo borrowed a ton of money from some European country and defaulted, failed to pay it back? Well, what used to happen was that European country would simply send in the Navy, blockade the harbor, and then tax any boat that came in or left until they accumulated the money that was owed later. Okay, and that's what used to happen. And that's him reaching out his hand to get the money from this guy. Monroe Doctrine says, no more Europe. You stay out. Now Roosevelt says, and one more thing. If a country like Santo Domingo owes you money, we'll go in and collect the money. And then we'll pay you back. We'll be the ones that step in and be the person between you and the country that owes you money. We'll collect it. It's a bit more aggressive. It's the U.S. giving itself permission to intervene in Latin American affairs if we don't like what's going on. And I think I showed you, do you remember that map I showed you? Maybe it's up here somewhere. Let's see. There it is. Okay. All these countries in gray, well, brown, would be countries that Roosevelt or his successor, Taft, or the next successor, Wilson, Roosevelt, Taft, Wilson, at one point basically said, we, the United States, have the right to intervene in Venezuela, Chile, Nicaragua, Honduras, Guatemala, et cetera, because we don't like what's going on there. We're going to go in and we're going to fix it. And when asked, well, where'd you get this authority? Oh, the Roosevelt Corollary, which of course we made. The U.S. made a permission slip giving itself permission to intervene in foreign countries. It'd be like you getting up and walking out the door right now and me saying, where do you think you're going? Oh, I'm going to McDonald's, you'd say. And I'd say, well, where do you get the authority to do that? And you write yourself a permission slip. Here you go. And I take like, goodbye, right? You gave yourself permission. The U.S. gave itself permission. Do you think these countries said, hooray! Thanks, Marines. No. No. I am not, by the way, suggesting that never have people seen the Marines and said, oh, crap. I would venture to say more often than not, when people see the Marines coming, they're like, sweet. That's what the French said. Thank God. Right? Hooray, right? That I would say that the Marines are a force for good. But I'm not so sure that these people saw it that way. Okay. Just getting back to where we were. Yeah. Okay. Any questions here? Great piece of historical evidence you might use for your paper.
What's a paper?
Labor.
There you go.
There you go. Okay. Last slide, and this is a biggie. So let's look at the right picture. Okay. Brief history of Chinese history. The summary of Chinese history in 30 seconds. China was xenophobic. Anyone know what that means?
Hate everybody except for themselves.
Very good. Very fearful of any foreign influence. And they thought they were in pretty good shape because they've got the world's largest ocean to their right, the world's largest mountain range to the south, one of the world's largest deserts to the west, and then they built a wall to the north. So they're good, right? They are pure. But when you do that, when you cut yourself off from contact with the outside world, the rest of the world evolves and you don't. The rest of the world changes and you don't. The rest of the world invents things like guns and you don't. So you are looking at the result of China being very behind as far as technology. What was the result of that? Foreign powers like France, which conquered the southern part of China. That shouldn't surprise you. France not only conquered the southern part of China, but they conquered the part south of China. Vietnam is an example, right? You're looking at the beginning of the Vietnam War right here. When Columbus did this, he started a chain of events. I was measuring wind, right? Which way is the wind blowing? I'll go that way. When Columbus went that way, he started a chain of events which would result, in one case, in the Vietnam War. Because when he did that, it started European desire for empire, which started the European warring against each other for empire. Part of the French Empire was the part south of China, which they tried to win back slightly before the Americans got involved in the Vietnam War. They lost. We replaced them because of our belief that communism was a bad thing, which led to our involvement in Vietnam. Okay, but the beginning of that is, well, I should say it. Chapter 2 of that story is right here. Okay, Britain controlling large chunks of China, including, by the way, something called Hong Kong. Opium, very good. Yeah, you know that story? What about opium?
The British wanted markets with China. China didn't want markets with the British. So the Britain just said, hey, we'll just give your people a bunch of opium.
I'm like, I don't know.
Yes. The British sold opium to the Chinese population when the Chinese government said, stop selling opium, which is an addictive drug, stop selling opium to our people. The British went to war against the Chinese so they could sell. I mean, it's like if the drug cartels went to war against the US so they could sell drugs to you people, right? And they won. The British won. See, we can sell opium. And by the way, they're called the Opium Wars. All right, and Germany is even a thing now. Germany's starting to flex its muscles. You want to know where the story starts with Germany ultimately leading to, conquest of Europe during World War II? Right here. Germany's starting to flex its muscles. It's a thing. Oh, I'm sure it starts way before that. Absolutely, you're right. Japan. Japan's right here. Japan got the idea of conquering one's neighbors from the U.S., which, remember, forced the Japanese to sign that treaty. And you are looking at the world's largest area of iron. That's it. Manchuria. Very good. The Japanese would take that and make one of the world's largest navies, which they would then use to attack Pearl Harbor. I mean, it's so cool to start putting these things together, right? That's the fun of American history. Okay. And then Russia even conquering part. All these foreign powers carving China up like a pie. And do you notice who's on the outside looking in? Besides the Chinese, of course.
No, they're on the inside.
They're inside looking out. Yeah, you're right. Who's not part of this picture?
US.
Right, the US. And we didn't like that very much. So now I take you to this picture. Here's the situation when the US decides to do something about it, and this is a visual of what the US did about it. We wrote a letter, a very important letter, to France, Britain, Germany, Japan, and Russia. That letter basically said, hey, foreign powers, you are not respecting the territorial integrity of this thing called China. That's not fair to China. It's also not fair to us.
Because they don't get the trade.
Right? We're on the outside looking in. So rather than carving China into areas of exclusive control, or what we'll call spheres of influence, rather than carve China into spheres of influence, there's the British sphere of influence, there's the French sphere of influence, the Japanese sphere of influence, rather than carve it up, what we should do is just open all of China up to any foreign involvement anywhere. We'll call it the open door. Just open up Chinese markets to any country, anywhere. And the British agreed. You know what? You're right. And because the British agreed, these other countries sort of begrudgingly said, yeah, I guess. Which is exactly what the US wants. And I'm telling you that this is very useful information for not paper. This is that we did it. We got it. We now have access to Chinese markets. This justifies everything we did before. This justifies American conquest of the Philippines and Guam and buying Hawaii. Well, not buying Hawaii, but acquiring Hawaii. There it is. We did it. We now have access to Chinese markets.
And that paper was called the Open Door Policy.
The letter.
The letter.
The letter was called the open door policy. That's correct. Well, no, the letter explained the open door policy. The open door policy was open Chinese markets to any foreign entity, no more exclusive control of anything. Who do you suppose is the most resentful of this policy? Yes, the Chinese were the most resentful. They did not like all these foreigners. And again, it's fun to sort of go through time. You want to know why China absolutely became obsessed with technology and being cutting edge? It's so that they would never suffer through this again. The impurity of the foreigners. Okay? And unlike the Native Americans, they actually succeeded to a large extent. Very good. That's it. Isn't that nice? Hey, you got a nice chunk of time here. I'm happy to sit down and help any of you as far as your Blue Book essays are concerned. There's a Kia due today. You've got a cheat sheet. You've got a synthesis article you need to find someday.
What's Monday and Tuesday look like?
Monday is notes, Tuesday is
Okay.
open for.
Otherwise, have at thee.
How about the?
So Tuesday we can write the essay.
I'm